But I was able to say, well, maybe, Dad, but the architect says I can't lose because there's something called federal flood insurance. Government, because they were tired of bailing people out after floods, decided we better offer government flood insurance. And we can price it properly, but of course they didn't want to raise the rates. They were afraid to offend voters, so it was dirt cheap. Cost me a couple $100 a year, and I could have this house. And sure enough, my father was right. A few years hence, the first floor washed away, and you rebuilt it. Thank you. I never invited you there, but I really appreciate you coming in with this bad government program. It washed out again. You rebuilt it again. Then the whole house went down, and it was traumatic personally, but you covered my financial losses. Government can't stop covering much too much. So this is what I learned in my 30 years of reporting. I changed my perspective. And when I did, my career in the media changed. I won 19 Emmy Awards when I was criticizing business. I haven't won a single one since, now that I've criticized government. And in New York, someone came up to me in the street and said, "Are you John Stossel?" "Yes." "I hope you die soon." This was a legal aid lawyer, and I'm trying to understand the hatred. And at first I thought it's because they think of me as a conservative. And where I work, to be a conservative is like being a child molester. It's the worst thing you could be. But I'm a lousy conservative. I'm a libertarian. I think drugs should be legal. I was not for going into Iraq. I don't know that we can do nation building successful. I think homosexuality is fine. I mean, maybe I could be a unity member here. Who knows? I'm not a conservative, and yet it shows how open-minded the conservatives are. It's the young Republicans who invite me to campus, not the young Democrats. They're more open-minded, I think. But if I'm not a conservative, I'm a libertarian, why do the liberals hate me so passionately? And I came to think it's because I'm defending business, and they hate business. Here I am, a consumer reporter defending business. So what's this hatred of business about? At first I thought it was envy of the wealth, especially among the college professors. Many places they went to school with somebody who was stupider than they, and that guy's now in business making a fortune, and they're making college professor salaries. They're envious. And there is a big disparity of income. But then I thought about the kings and queens of England or the rest of Europe, and I thought that the disparity of welfare was even greater. And yet they were revered by the poor people. But the poor people hated the bourgeoisie. They gave them that nasty name. They hated the businessmen. They hated the people who sold them the very things they needed to make their life better. Why? What's that about? And I've come to believe it's innate to think of business as a zero-sum game. If somebody's making a profit, then you must be losing something. And I can see why politicians think that way, and why lawyers think that way, because their world is that way. If one wins, somebody else has to lose. But business doesn't work that way because it's voluntary. Only with two ways to do things in life: force or voluntary. Force is government. Everything government does is force. And litigation, also force. But the rest of life, the best of life, how you pick your friends, your spouse, your religion, your hobbies, your work, your transactions, it's all voluntary. The business transaction doesn't happen unless both parties think they win. That's why you get the weird double thank you moment when you buy anything. You buy a cup of coffee, you give her the buck, she gives you the coffee, you say, "Thank you, thank you." Why the double thank you? Because you wanted the coffee more than you wanted the buck. She wanted the buck more than she wanted the coffee. It doesn't happen unless you both get what you want. Business is win-win. This means that it's not like Bill Gates having $50 billion means we have that much less. It's not like the world is a pie and he takes a big slice and we get a smaller slice. Entrepreneurs bake millions of new pies. They make us all richer. But the politicians and the press don't get that. And they hate capitalism. They hate the system that has lifted more people out of the mud and misery than any system or any government ever. And it's vilified in newsrooms and in many college campuses. Less so, I think, on Jesuit campuses. So that's one reason my colleagues got mad at me. The other reason was I started to make fun of the scare stories we were doing. And that's another part of the consumer reporter's job. And clearly we have to warn people about risks. But we seldom discriminate. We just warn people about everything that comes in. And I finally was waking up to that, so I spent half a year compiling a list of what kills people in America so I could try to rank them and get more hysterical about the bigger risks. And I had that death list, I called it, on my wall when a producer came in with the next scare story, which was, Bic lighters are exploding in people's pockets, setting them on fire. They've killed 4 Americans over the past 4 years. And this was a story that had come in, like all these stories do, from a trial lawyer. They are the investigative reporter's best friend. And it's very hard to resist them. I worked with them for years, and they do all the work for us. They use the power of force we give only to government and litigators, subpoena power in this case, to subpoena every piece of paper some company produced, and they pull something out of there, they hand that to me, and I get to look like the big investigative reporter protecting the public. And then they carefully pick the victim. I don't even have to make a phone call. They find a burn victim who will make you cry. And I get to go on TV and look like a hero. But I was wise to their scam by them, so I could say to this producer, okay, Bic lighters, well, let's do that, but, look at my death list. We should first do plastic bags, because they kill not 4, but 40 Americans every 4 years. Or bathtubs. Let's do an expose on bathtubs. They kill 200 Americans every 4 years. It's a big country. We scare people about every little thing. They won't pay attention when the big risks come. And he called me callous, and they got Bob Brown to do that story. And I went to my bosses and said, let me do a show that ranks the risk. Wouldn't that be a good consumer service? And they said, yes, we'll get back to you. And they didn't. But then the free market worked. I got another job offer, and to keep me, ABC agreed to give me primetime specials, and I insisted the first one be one we called, Are We Scaring You to Death? I actually wanted to call it, We Are Scaring You to Death, but they wouldn't let me. And in this show, we ranked risks, and it turned out my death list was too crude, and the way the real risk specialists compare risks is by how many days does each risk take off an average life, because that accounts for things that kill children being more tragic than something that kills people my age. So looking at some of these risks, plane crashes. You got to cover the plane crash. It's big news, but less than 1 day off an average life. It's very rare. We're so worried about terrorism, but even if September 11th happened every 3 years, and it's been 6, 4 days off an average life. Compare that to ordinary house fires. You don't worry about that. A $10 smoke detector is a wonderful thing when 4,000 Americans die every year from house fires. Or murder, which leads the news. And if these were all the risks, you could say the press wasn't doing that bad a job. But watch how these bars have to shrink to make room for driving a car. Half a year off an average life. This should make us rethink our plane crash coverage. Because when the planes crash, we go crazy. We're here live at the scene. We don't know anything, but we'll keep telling you what we don't know for hours. And when we do that, people stop flying. They get scared about flying. I think it's statistical murder to do that kind of coverage, because then more people drive to Grandma's house for Thanksgiving, and that kills people. It should also make you wonder about people driving farther to get to the organic food store. And watch how these bars have to shrink to make room for smoking. And the cigarette smoker worrying about getting brain cancer from his cell phone is just nuts. And it's this next bar that I think is most interesting. It shrinks all the other bars. It says poverty. It should say low income. If you're below the poverty level in America, or in the lowest quintile of income in other countries, your life is 7 to 10 years shorter.